All right, so you're listening to Big Blend Radio's World Travel Party with Nancy and Lisa, and it is time for our World Travel Panel discussion. We've got three special guests joining us. The first one is Glynn Burrows. Everyone knows Glynn. He calls into our show about every month or so, and he is one of our expert contributors talking about destinations all around England and also really connects people with their family history back into England. And you can go to his website, norfolk-tours.co.uk. That's what he does. He's the owner of Norfolk Tours in England, and he provides custom tours, and he takes people where they want to go. He says he can give them the complete package, and that's what we all want. Anyway,
that's right.
So you can read his articles and listen to past interviews if you go to blendradioandtv.com and click on our expert departments, and you'll see Glynn there. Glynn, how are you doing over in Norfolk?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you very much. How are you?
We're doing good. So a little snow dusting happened over in England last night, apparently.
During the day, we had a little bit of snow. Nothing worth worrying about. But, yeah, it's nice to see it now and again.
A little magical. I know that, you've had that little bit of a cough over the last month or so. So does the snow help?
I don't know about that. It's just a nuisance.
Oh, well, it'll all pass and it'll all get better. I'm really excited, Glynn, because we have two ladies that do have some kind of connection back to England joining us. We have Lara Dunning, and she is an author, a travel writer, and publisher of smalltownwashington.com. I encourage you to go to her website and get to learn about that beautiful state. And I know, Glynn, you like to keep things real, and small towns are a part of what you do.
Definitely.
But I saw we first met Lara. She came on a panel discussion in the summer of 2017 with two other travel writers, all part of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We were getting the inside scoop on what it's like to be a travel writer and blogger. And actually, you can go see this if you go to nationalparktraveling.com. You'll be able to find the feature there and look in the December-January issue of Parks and Travel magazine. But, Lara, we brought you on because we've got some family history connections, and you could definitely connect with Glynn, and we're going to talk about world travel. But how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, we're excited because we want to talk family history and then hear about your recent travels, because as far as we know, you like to go beyond Washington State, even though you're one of those proud representatives of your state.
Yes.
Right on.
Yeah, I was recently in Ireland. I visited all small towns there, and then in Greece. I had a great time in Halkidiki, Greece, visiting small towns. And it's a beautiful. Both of those are beautiful destinations.
I love that, small towns. So that's your thing, no matter where you go. Is to What do you think prompted that in your life? That
well, I grew up outside of the Chicago suburbs, so it wasn't really a small town, but it felt like it. And then I moved to Indiana, northern Indiana, to a very small town, and that's about 10,000 people. And, I didn't like it when I was young, of course, because it felt too small. But as I got older, I really started to appreciate it. And I also spent time on a small town on the Lucian Chain. I lived there for 3 years, and there was only about 80 people that lived there. And I loved it.
That's cool. That's cool. And so everyone, again, smalltownwashington.com, you can keep up with Lara's travel stories around Washington State. Real quick before we bring our next guest on, who's also a member of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. And anybody in the world of food, wine, travel, hospitality, whether you're a writer, photographer, blogger, or, if you're a visitor center or, an author, I encourage you to go to ifwtwa.org. They have their annual conference coming up May 6th through 8, 2018, and it's at Whidbey Island, which is your backyard, right?
Yep, it's just 15 minutes away.
Wow. It's so beautiful. We've covered the conference on our show and, actually done a few segments with some of the travel writers that are part of Big Blend, and man, it looks and sounds so beautiful, and it's just one of those places, small town, right? And really keeping the sense of place and being authentic to who they are as a community.
Yeah. Then each of the towns have this whole different vibe and feel to them, and there's just great food and outdoor walking, outdoor activities, and there's a historic fort on Whidbey Island, and there's military housing that you can actually stay in at Fort Casey. So it's got this great, very rural feel to it.
That's nice. I like that. You know, I want to bring our next guest on again, also an International Food Wine Travel Writer Association member, Lisa Deutsch, and she is a culture and cuisine consultant. Now, you know, that's a good job to have. I like that.
Really.
She's a writer and publisher of EssentialWanderings.com. She's known as the LA Gourmet on Twitter. So, Lisa, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning. Well, I'm looking out in beautiful Southern California, Los Angeles, and just so grateful to have not been dusted with snow over the past couple of days. So,
so you weren't as cold as we were here in Tucson last night. I mean, you know, that got pretty freezing.
yeah, no, we don't go down that low. So we do live in paradise here in Los Angeles, and I'm grateful for it every day.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about EssentialWanderings.com. I know you do a lot in LA, but do you travel out in your writing?
Well, I don't want to take up too much time here, but if I could just quickly tell my story. I actually graduated from UC Irvine with a degree in cultural anthropology, and both myself and my family were so confused about what one does with that. So I went off to law school, which seemed like a path everybody knew, and that's where I ended up doing some studying in the UK, in both London and Oxford, on exchange programs, which were fascinating. Love the UK and the people. They were so generous. And went through a whole career and a whole set of things, surreptitiously traveling my passion, fulfilling my passions on the side. And when I finally realized that my dream was my life and I needed to let that go full time, I started going out there and figuring out what do I do with this passion, and I started writing, and I hooked up with IFTWA and all these amazing people and places, and I've just been in heaven ever since. So I recommend to everyone, if you have a passion for travel, find a way to do it as much as you can, and if you can make it a career, good for you.
Right on. And I know you've been to over 50 countries, and that's exciting because it really does keep you on your toes in life and gives you this broader perspective. So it's great. It's great that you've traveled so much. I wanted to get into our conversation here a little deeper. I wanted to talk about that England connection that everybody has. And I wanted to start with you, Lara, because on your Instagram post, you posted this beautiful photo of this ship. And you're like, well, this looks like the one that my family came in on, and I'm like, okay, wait. So because now I know I know that you lived in different places, but I was like, okay, I would have thought you would be on the English side of history in Washington because I know there's so much English history there, but they came in on the eastern side.
Yeah. So actually, a lot of my early ancestors were some of the first settlers in the U.S., and John Norval came across on the Mary and John, and around 1624 is what we think the date is. And they, in the register, it says that he came to muster. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but muster in a location. I'm assuming that muster probably means that he was maybe part of the King's Regiment. Let's see if I can. Muster at Mulberry Island.
Glynn, do you know much about that?
I've heard of the Mary and John, but that's obviously you need to. You need to know more about the actual people concerned. But the Mary and John is definitely a ship that I've heard of. I think that was, if I remember rightly, and I'm just taking it off the top of my head, I may be completely wrong, but I'm pretty certain that the Mary and John was named after two English, prince and princess. But I don't know whether I'm right. I'm just trying to Google it now. Hang on, and I'll tell you if I can. It was a 400-ton ship, and it sailed between 1590 and 1664. But I seem to remember it was named after two members of the royal family, but it might be named after his family.
So when did you get interested in following your family's roots?
Probably 4 or 5 years ago. kind of what stirred it is I don't know much about my mother's side because her parents died young, so I never knew my grandparents. None of me and my siblings did. So I just kind of got on Ancestry.com, and, it's addicting. Once you start clicking leaves and finding more information, you can, the whole day has gone by, and it's 8 o'clock, and you haven't even eaten.
She's like Nancy Drew of genealogy here. Yeah. That's exciting.
It is. It's interesting. It really is.
I love that you started doing that, and I wanted to go to Lisa. Tell us a little bit of your background, because were you born in L.A. and then went to England?
Yes, born and raised in Los Angeles, which happens to be such a diverse city. My parents, in order to not only educate us on the diversity but also save money, took us to a lot of wonderful little mom and pop restaurants in Little Tokyo, in all these little ethnic enclaves throughout Los Angeles, and they really introduced me to culture in such a loving way, and we were so excited when we got an opportunity to explore that. And they always encouraged me to travel, and I started when I was 18 on a bus with 50 students throughout Europe, which was crazy. And then when I was in law school and the opportunity came up to study at Regent's College in London and also at Magdalen College in Oxford, I was beside myself. And what an experience it was to be embraced by the community. The barristers and the solicitors in London have I wouldn't call it a war, I will just say a charming rivalry going on, and they both tried to one-up each other to show these American students the best experience and the best time. So I am so grateful for that experience and the incredible world of the legal system in the UK. It's incredible.
That's awesome. So, Glynn, hospitable England, huh? Is that something you look at, the whole country, because it's giant, but, when you think about hospitality and how we think about it always in tourism, but I also think the education system is such a huge part of hospitality, of people traveling for education is another form of it. Glynn, do you ever deal with anybody from the education system that comes over?
Yes, funnily enough, I've had 3 or 4 visitors now that I've taken around for sort of just a familiarization tour, so that I've had one lady who came over to England with her daughter to drop her off at the university, and she wanted to let her daughter see the area that she was going to be in, and also she wanted to see the area as well. So I took them around Norfolk. And also I've had another group just recently, actually, who wanted to come and pick their son up from university, who had been in Norwich studying for a semester, and they wanted to come and see where he had been. But we also had a little wander around Norwich and went to the castle and had lunch and picked him up and took him back to London. So yes, I mean, that is something that is quite important, because being a parent myself, it's nice to know that your children are in a place that is nice. When I took my daughter to university in Nottingham, it was good that we could go and see where she was going to go to. But obviously, if you're coming over to England from America, not everybody is able to do that. So it's good to be able to, in a way, entrust somebody to show them around, and that's something that I did for a couple of students who were coming over here. I actually showed them around without their parents. Their parents had seen my
If I
child,
could jump in here, Glenn, your schools are so stunning. All the colleges in Oxford are these gorgeous aged stone buildings right on this lovely water where we were encouraged to go punting, which is you stand on a raft with a stick and you go, and it is just the most if there was the most beautiful environment to expand your mind in, I have to say that they're in the UK, because the schools are stunning. The programs have been around forever. The dorm rooms were beyond impressive. I mean, every student there has everything they could possibly want. The libraries are insanely gorgeous and well stocked, and I was just blown away by your system, and I need to get back there. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Well, that's funny.
One of the things, if I can just say before we move on, that as I come from East Anglia, Cambridge and Oxford have got a very friendly rivalry, and I have to come out on the side of Cambridge because that's my closest big university city, and Cambridge have got everything that you could imagine, together with the punts and with the beautiful colleges, and it's a place I always take visitors to because it's so amazing. But Oxford's okay as well.
You know,
I love the word rivalry because the British are so wonderful in their rivalries. They try to outdo each other in the best possible way. It's not hurtful or painful. It's just like, we're better because we have the most gorgeous whatever, and that's the kind of war I want to be involved in. Everyone trying to outdo each other by sharing the absolute best that they have. It's spectacular.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to move on to Lara here because I wanted to finish up a little bit on her family history part of this, which sparked this whole England connection, and we're still going to talk about other destinations. Lara, when you're talking about your family coming over, are there specific names that you were saying about these different islands? Do you know exactly like what towns they came from England, and specific names that Glynn can kind of have in the back of his head?
I don't have names, but I have areas. I think it's an area like Oxfordshire. I think that's an area. And then Wiltshire is another area that I found they come from. And those are the only two I've really been able to pinpoint. All the other research just says, when I'm looking on Ancestry.com, just says England. So I probably have to do, more digging to find where they were from in England.
It's interesting. Glynn, any tips on going beyond the Ancestry.com with that, of being able to...
Yeah, I personally would just put in, John Norville, the Mary and John 1625 or whatever, and see what comes up. Because it might be something that comes up from a book reference, or there might be somebody who's already found out information and done a biography of him. But, don't just go to the genealogical sites. Google book searches are absolutely amazing. If you go on to Google Books and go on to the advanced search option, go on to whole books, so not just excerpts, the whole book, and put in the search options that you want to put in. Some entire books are on the website. So you can often read books that were printed in 1700 or 1650 or whatever, and you can actually read the whole book. Some of these things are just available if we know where they are. So sometimes it pays just putting in a name and a place. So, John Norville from Oxfordshire, 1600s, you never know what's going to come up in a Google search. The computer today is amazing. I wish it was around when I started.
I know, right?
I know, wouldn't it?
It's so neat. It's so exciting. And now Nancy has a question for each of you, so people can get an idea of where you're from and where you're going, where you're going in the life.
So, Lara, let's start with you. Where's the first destination you traveled to that was outside of your home?
Outside of my home?
Yeah, out of your hometown. The very first, I'm on a trip. Do you remember where it was?
I don't remember where the first one was, but my father's a scientist, and he would save up all his vacation days. And so every summer we would go on month-long vacation trips. Cool. And so those are the most memorable memories I have of traveling when I was younger.
Ah.
So were you listening to the Bee Gees on those road trips? I'm just saying from the last conversation we had.
No, my dad was like more of a Beatles.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll never
Heart.
forget that answer. I was like, where would you go on a road trip? Who are you taking and what music? And she's like, I'm taking my best friend. We're going from Washington State to Kansas and listening to the Bee Gees. I was like, I have never heard that, and it's stuck in my brain ever since then.
Okay, Lisa, what about you? Do you remember what's the very first trip away from your home?
The one that's the most in my mind right now is when we were, early teens, maybe before that. My parents took us to the New England states back east, and we stayed in all of the old inns where it said Washington slept here, with tiny, tiny little stairwells and doors, and we basically ate what they ate and lived like they lived. And I mean, it's like Disneyland, but it's historic. Actually, Disneyland's like them now that I think about it, because it was just such a wonderful living history, and I just couldn't get enough. And we went to Salem, Massachusetts, and we were in Boston Harbor, and learning history in the actual location, it doesn't get better than that. And for a kid, I was absolutely lit up, and I think that flipped on the switch. They got me beyond excited to travel.
Excellent.
Yeah, I know. That's what road trips do, man.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to go home just yet.
Yeah.
What about you, Glynn? Do you remember your first experience traveling away from home?
My first family holiday was 1969 when we went to Butlins. It was a holiday camp, and it was just very, very basic.
Did you say Butland or Buckland? I'm sorry, I just wanted to...
Butlins. Butlins is a company that does a little holiday chalets on a camp, and it was very, very basic. But you know, my parents, my dad worked on a farm, my mum sort of did potato picking on farms and things, so we didn't have any money. So that was our first holiday. But my first abroad holiday was when I went to France when I was about 11 or 12. You know, I'd have been 12. We had an exchange system in school, so I went to France in Easter, and Patrick used to come to England in July. So we exchanged houses, basically, which was great. And funnily enough, to bring it all up to date, I'm still in touch with Patrick, so that's since 1972.
Wow.
Several years ago, and his daughter has had a baby today. So, you know, we're still very much in touch.
Oh, so we have to have our champagne toast. I know that we're doing our world travel party, but we always have champagne on Sunday. So toast to Patrick.
We can toast to young Evie, who's hopefully she's home and safe in France at the moment with her mum and dad.
Right on.
That's really
cool.
cool.
I wanted to say this real quick to Lisa because you did the same thing. Didn't you stay in Madrid in some of your studies?
Yes, my junior year of college was a year in Madrid. They didn't, back in those days, they didn't speak English there, which I didn't know, and my Spanish was non-existent. But talk about a more loving, open people. When I went to the butcher shop, the butcher literally made little bunny ears and jumped up and down yelling, "Conejo, conejo," at me to teach me that animal I was looking at in the case was a bunny rabbit. So, I mean, just wonderful, open-minded, and when they found out I was from Los Angeles, they asked, "So, do you know Tom Cruise?" And I hated to disappoint them and tell them no, but I had to, and just needless to say, a year of immersion, and my Spanish now serves me every day in Los Angeles, so I'm very grateful for that experience. And to live abroad is about as sweet as it gets, to see how other people think and live. And the Spanish, my goodness, they know how to enjoy life. It's all about celebrating life, family, going out dancing, maybe having picnics. I thought, maybe I could really get into this lifestyle. It speaks to a lot of people I know, and I'm grateful for that year abroad.
Right on.
Okay, well, now let's go again. Lara, I would like to know, what do you think is your funniest travel story? Something really funny that happened.
Oh, gosh. Huh.
You're all getting this question.
Yeah, so start thinking.
Yeah. What's the funniest thing that's happened?
Yeah.
Sometimes you think it's really a bad thing when it happens. Breaking down and, with the Pride Alliance, that's happened to us. Break down, you're out there, and, this was in Kenya.
And I
was
just
it Kenya or
got
South
out and
Africa?
Kenya.
Changing tires, we go like not even 10 feet around the corner, and there's a Pride Alliance sitting there.
They're all just looking at you, and you're like, oh, hi.
Hi. Hi, guys. It's cool. Then we just hung out with them for the rest of the day. But, yeah, it's so funny about travel. I think there's funny things you see, there's funny experiences, and then there's the bad, like the stuff that, oh, man, here we go, detour. And later it becomes a funny story.
I know in Kenya you can lose a camera real easy, even if you didn't leave it anywhere, if you get my meaning on that.
Yeah.
But I had this bottle of hand lotion that followed me all through Kenya because I left it in the room, and they were so honest about the hand lotion, and it went from game lodge to game lodge to hotel to hotel for months, just trying to follow me. Where is she now? I got to send that hand lotion. But your camera, not so much.
Back then it was a little hard to get those back. So we had that happen here in this country too. So and we never got it back. But yeah, Lara, do you have a story that you remember?
I have a story. I mean, I don't know if it's really, and I guess in hindsight it's funny. So when I graduated college, me and my best friend, we went to Spain and Morocco, and on our way to Fez, first of all, I had eaten something, so I was sick, and I was pretty much in the bathroom like that whole train ride. But in the middle of the night, the military or militiamen, I don't know who they were, they commandeered the entire train and kicked us off in the middle of the night, in the middle of the desert, in the dark. And, of course, everybody knew where to go except for us. So my friend, I'm sick, kind of sitting on my backpack, just trying to maintain my composure. And my friend is kind of arguing with these guys with machine guns. And eventually, they kind of give her the runaround, but eventually they pointed her in the direction of where we should go. So we got on our backpacks and we just followed the tracks and where they pointed. And, we weren't sure if we were ever going to make it to any place at all because it was dark in the desert. But we did. We ended up in the town of Berber. And we got in there at like 2 o'clock at night, and thankfully the hotel person gave us a hotel room. I mean, it was kind of traumatic at the time, but thinking back, I mean, it's not really funny, but it's
a good story, man.
Yeah,
that's a good story.
A good story.
Yeah. So you've done. So how many countries have you been to? Do you think?
Oh gosh, I have never really counted. Probably under 10. I mean, it's not a whole bunch.
But it's still, I think it's once you start, that bug hits you, and it's like you want to just, it's like, it's an addiction. It truly is. It's like, and once I think it's once you step outside your comfort zone, then you can't, you get outside that little bubble we're all in at our home and everything. And as soon as you step out of it and you realize, actually, this is really cool, and you learn to trust yourself in situations, then it's like the whole world is your oyster.
I mean, it really is true, because then something like that will happen, and you're right, it's not funny, and I'm sure it wasn't funny at the time, but you still travel, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. See, she's like, without the
yes, with the Bee Gees.
It was really funny. Okay, so Glynn, what about you? What's your funny travel story?
Well, actually, it sort of come to mind because I was just talking to you about Patrick, my friend in France, and also the conversation just now about going to Spain. I went to France in 1978 to work because I was in the hotel trade. I'd trained as a chef, and I wanted to learn French. And the best way to learn French is to go to France. So I went and worked in the Loire Valley in a 5-star hotel. Not as a chef, I had hastened to add, but as a waiter. And afterwards, I'd been there for like 6 months. I went to Patrick's and stayed with him for a couple of weeks because he lives just a bit further up in the Loire Valley at Orléans, which is where Joan of Arc comes from. And one night we had gone out, as we would. I mean, we were 19-year-old lads, so we went out on the town, and he only had a really bad car, and it broke down. So I was pushing this car in the middle of the city about 2 o'clock in the morning, and the police arrived and said, what's going on? So they said, can we have your ID cards? So Patrick gave them his, and I didn't have my passport on me because I hadn't thought about carrying my passport. We've just gone for a night out, But obviously it's the legal requirement to carry ID in France. So anyway, Patrick said to the police officers, he's my English mate. And they came across to me and they said, as long as it's the English bloke who's pushing the car, we don't care, So they were being a bit racist, I suppose, we could say that today, but we all took it as a good laugh. We all sort of patted each other on the back and we went on our merry way, But that was quite funny. As long as I was English, funny. I could push the car.
It is. This is all about transportation and travel. That does. I think that's where some of the craziest stories are, especially people too.
Well, there's transportation and luggage are two mix-ups always. Okay, Lisa, same question to you. Funniest travel story.
Yes, and mine is a transportation story as well.
Okay.
I was in Egypt, and I had this wonderful guide that a friend had recommended, so it was just me and him, and we were going to see the pyramids of Giza, which is the most amazing thing in the world, and I was so excited. So we go there, and he takes me to this little place, and he all of a sudden tells me I will need to get on a camel in order to ride around the pyramids because they're so large and so far away. Now, I didn't realize this, and I just about a year before had a terrible horseback riding accident and shattered my wrist. And I had not been on the back of any animal since, and I swore that I never would. So I said, no, I am not getting on a camel. I've already fallen off a horse. Camel's much higher. I'm not doing it. He was like, no, you must. You have to see this. It's so wonderful. If you miss this, your whole trip will be ruined. You have to do this. And I said, no, I am not doing it. So he goes and he must have been a 7-year-old boy. So he says, look how easy it is. He put the 7-year-old boy on. 7-year-old boy looks like he's been on a camel his whole life. He's riding around, no problem. The camel does everything he says, pulls the boy off, and he says, okay, now you get it on. I said, no, I'm not getting on. He says, you must. I said, the only way I'll get on that camel is if you give me the boy. You put the boy on the camel, I will sit behind him, and then I will do it. They gave me the boy and let me rent him for the entire ride. The boy was so calm, the camel was calm, I was calm, and I got to see one of the 7 wonders of the world close up, and I am so grateful that the Egyptian people were generous enough to take the time to talk me into that experience because I was ready to walk away. So thank you for hospitality that is always afforded to travelers, and the Egyptian people are top of my list for hospitality givers.
Right on. I know, man. It's true.
Camels can be very tricky. They have long necks.
I love
and
camels.
They can get your foot if they want to.
I love them. The spit stinks. I know I've told this story before, but I've been spat and drooled on, and it was in Yuma, Arizona. There's camels out there, and camels used to be out. They actually brought camels into the desert in southern Arizona, up in through Yuma, where the sand dunes are, where Star Wars was filmed. And up in Southern California deserts, out by Glamis. Am I saying it right? Mm-hmm. And outside of Ocotillo Wells and Borrego Springs and the Borrego Desert, there were camels out there and on the Colorado River, and there was a little military thing. And there's up in Quartzsite, there's that little monument to the camels of the desert. But we have actually seen a camel with a guy walking through the sand dunes in Southern California desert, like just walking through the sand dunes. It looked like the Sahara. And we pulled over and we really didn't have anything to drink today. We're not doing anything we're not supposed to be doing. What the hell is this? But it was true. But in Yuma there was this place and they had camels, and I remember we were filming and doing all this stuff, and I have a thing about camels that they're my favorite. Like there's just something like them and moose. I think they're related. This camel drooled all over me, and of course I'm excited about it. Except for when you got in the car, you realize that smell out of the car. It took weeks. And then we had a business meeting to go to. I smelled. Oh no. Then we had to go to the casino and film in there and do all this stuff. And now it's full of smoke back in those days. I walk in, People could smell me in the casino through cigarette smoke. That's how much.
They all turned and looked.
They would look at me, and I'm like, yeah, well,
you really stink.
like it reminds me of the Seinfeld episode with Kramer, like, you stink. I mean, I really did. It's cool. It's cool. So I want to know, each of you, where your last world destination, somewhere outside your country that you've been to. Let's start with you, Glynn.
So where was my last destination?
Yeah, that it was outside England.
Canada.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to Canada a year and a half ago. We started off in Toronto, and I met up with my cousins. I've got 3 cousins out there, and all their families. We then flew across to Calgary. Then we went up over the mountains to Vancouver, then across to Vancouver Island, and then flew back to Toronto.
Wow.
That was a fantastic holiday, and my cousins just are amazing people to entertain, to put us up and put up with us. And funnily enough, this week I've just booked my tickets. We're going to fly over to Toronto again, and this is in August. And then we're going to go to Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island, and then back to Toronto, and then fly here again. So, Canada seems to be the place to be for me at the moment.
Right on.
That's
and
awesome.
Is there? And I would just real quick, Lara, because I have a second part to this question. Lara, he wasn't that far from you in Vancouver, right?
No. Yeah. No,
All
I'm
right.
only about an hour and a half from Vancouver.
Wow. Wow.
And
We
that's
should have done the
such a
show like a
beautiful
year
area.
ago.
The reason I really wanted to go to Vancouver was because George Vancouver was born in King's Lynn, and so was I. And there's a statue of George Vancouver on King's Lynn Harbour, and there's a statue of George Vancouver, obviously in Vancouver, and also on Vancouver Island in Victoria, on top of the town hall. So I wanted to get some pictures. So I took, as you know, Lisa, I'm also a director of Buy Local Norfolk. So I took a Buy Local Norfolk carrier bag and put it on George Vancouver's statue, because he's a Norfolk bloke. He ought to be proud of it.
And we need to buy local. People need to support your small businesses. We talk about small towns and keeping that authenticity. And I love that whole project that's over in Norfolk and then other communities. I know there's initiatives out here as well. Your second part of that question is, what did you see that was completely different than you've ever seen in your own country, that you're like, man, I'll only see this here?
Bears. We saw a grizzly and a couple of black bears, and that was just mind-blowing.
That's so cool.
That is awesome. That is, didn't bears
Bears are
used to roam
great.
in England like years and years, like in ancient times?
Yes.
They did.
Yeah, definitely. They did. When we were still part of Europe, we used to have bears. Well, I suppose and after that as well. But we had bears and lions and tigers and everything else as well, because we were all part of Europe.
We had mammoths that came out and hung out with you too.
Well, the camels.
We had mammoths, yeah.
Camels come from here.
The camels come from North America.
So far.
Unless they find an earlier fossil.
Yeah.
But the earliest fossil they have right now of a camel comes from North America. So camels actually started out here, or at least were here at one point.
It's crazy, like when you start thinking way ancient times like that. I love that.
And then
I love
the hummingbirds over in
Germany.
In Germany, the earliest fossil of a hummingbird is in Europe, and they don't have any hummingbirds there now.
Yeah.
But we have them.
It's just wild.
Crazy.
It's wild. And so I want to go to you, Lisa. What was the very last place outside of America that you went to? I should say North America or America, United States.
Yes, that would have to be Gaziantep, Turkey, and let me tell you how I got there. I was invited by the Turkish government, who pulled together a group of food writers and scholars, because Gaziantep was honored for their cuisine by the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, which is, the UNESCO heritage sites. They started another program to honor different places for their contributions to music, to cuisine, to culture, to craft, to folk art. It is an incredible program, and Gaziantep Gaziantep is on the Syrian border in Turkey, and it has a 6,000-year-old cuisine that is so distinct that it received this honor. And we were lovingly taken around and shown all of the best parts of it. We saw almonds growing. We saw pistachios growing. That Gaziantep is famous for their pistachios, which they make the best baklava with. And then salads that I've never seen before. It was a feast to be remembered. And Turkey, whether you're in Istanbul or any other region, or Gaziantep like I was, is such a hospitable, loving place and absolutely delicious.
I want to give a shout out to Tucson on that note, because these UNESCO sites and World Heritage sites, number one, are very, very important to tourism and protection. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's so important. And when you travel, you get to understand. And we need to be advocates for these kinds of things, because that's the first step to losing these ancient sites and what they belong to. I know, like, the National Geographic did a series of geotourism maps, and I actually did a lot of work with some of the people that were putting it together here in Tucson in the Sonoran Desert, and it was so exciting to see behind the scenes what they were doing and getting interviews with people about the cultural aspect, the cuisine, the music, the food. It all goes together.
It does, and I don't think people realize that the UN is doing this as well. People don't see that the great resource the United Nations is, and all of the wonderful things they do to preserve and honor and celebrate cultures and countries, and to make sure that we have them for a long time to come, so our children's children will be able to see Angkor Wat or taste food in Gaziantep or do any of these amazing things that this planet is so blessed with.
I want to give a shout out to Tucson, our city here, but
Go
we
Tucson.
were declared the very first UNESCO gastronomy capital of the world.
So we got good food.
Yeah, we rock here. We've got the best tacos ever.
And we
just saying. Barbacoa.
It's hard to lose weight here.
I know. It's a great city. It's a great city for wine, for, it's just our whole region, and we really work with the Native American cultures as well as the Mexican culture, and, it's just such a diverse thing, so it's really cool. I want to get to Lara on this question, too, and I want to keep us on time here. So, Lisa, what was the one thing when you were over there that you just like, I'll never have that again, that experience, or see something or taste something?
The food, the freshest, greenest pistachios I have ever seen, the most delicious baklava. They claim it, and I want to say it was there. I had the best baklava I've ever had in my life, pistachio baklava to die for.
Right on. Now, Glynn, you're going to Nova Scotia, right?
Yes.
In family history, Steve Schneikert, our Hollywood historian, you know Steve, right?
Yes, of course.
He says to say that his great-grandmother and her family originated from Nova Scotia, just so you know when you're out there.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm going. It's because one of my ancestors actually fought in the 1812 war.
No way.
He was there in 1816, so he probably was there just to sort of keep the peace. And he was in Halifax, and that's why I have to go to Halifax, just to go and see where my ancestor was.
Wow.
So that's really great. If Steve sends me some information, I'll see if I can find anything of his family while I'm over there.
Right on. Maybe we could get a Nova Scotia Hollywood history segment, too.
I swear we're all going to end up related.
I know we're all going to be family at some point here, So I want to go, Lara, what was the last world travel destination? I don't know if it was Greece or Ireland or where with you. It's been doing a lot lately. Where was the last destination? And then what was that unique, I'll never see this anywhere else or experience?
And so in October, I spent 10 days in Ireland. I just stayed in County Kerry, and it was a solo trip. and I just loved that area. I have been to Ireland before. I spent 6 weeks there backpacking around solo, and so it was nice to return again. And some of the highlights were doing the Skellig Coast Drive, which in the new Star Wars movie, they filmed some of the locations on Skellig Michael Island, and that's a UNESCO site, and I really wanted to go see that. It's an old monastery up on top of this on top of this island. It doesn't even look like anything could even be there because it's like kind of like a straight up and down island. But there's 6 little beehive huts up there. But the weather was too bad to go. They could only land during good weather. But the one thing that really stands out that I would never experience in the U.S. is seeing the peat drying out and the smell of peat in the fireplaces.
That's an interesting. That's an experience, and that's like those sense memories too. When you start, you can remember smell. You know what I mean? When you travel, I mean, I remember this when we lived in Mexico. There's this one portion driving through Ensenada, and you get outside of Ensenada, and there's this one channel of fish smell that went across, and it was like because you're at the end part of the harbor, and this channel, like this waft of old fish would come through, and I would roll my windows down for it. And I know it's crazy, but you would do it just
then
for
you
that.
Knew you were in Mexico again.
Yeah, I know. It was like, we're at the
sure
fish.
Mexico's tourism the same. Thank you.
We're
Lisa.
at the fish tunnel. No, but it was like there was just this. I can't explain it. It's weird, but like the peat. Glynn, is that something that you see a lot in your area, or is that really more Ireland?
No, peat diggings is now mainly in Ireland, but the Norfolk Broads, which I've probably talked about before, which is a fantastic area of waterways, was actually formed by medieval peat digging, because people used to dig the peat, obviously, to burn, and some cottagers used to use peat to put on their roof, to insulate their roof. But talking about smell. It is one of the most evocative things, smells and sounds. If ever I hear a cockerel crowing, I'm back in France again when I was 12, and I used to be woke up by the cockerel in the garden, and again smelling fresh ground coffee. I'm back in France because Patrick's mum used to make coffee fresh every morning, and a smell can transport you all over the world. And all over the time scale, all over time, put it that way.
Lisa, what's your latest smell that you got in?
Well, it's always something baking, whether it's bread, hopefully bread, or anything. There were so many lovely. They sort of have that pizza oven shaped, open looking. That they bake the breads in Turkey, and it was so wonderful to see them pound out the dough, lay it out, put it in on the wooden little dowel there, and then pull it out, and you got fresh hot bread. It doesn't get better than that in my book.
Right on.
It's funny. And your website has really gorgeous food photos. It made me hungry. I was looking.
Well, thank you. Then it's working. And I'm just trying to share the amazing delicacies and the joy of celebrating diversity through the cuisine that each person finds, each country finds a new way to use what they have locally and makes these unbelievable dishes that you can't find anywhere else. So another great reason to travel, gastronomy.
Right on.
So I have to say my favorite smell that comes to mind right now is the marula fruit that you used to be able to see in South Africa and Kenya. The animals come out because they smell kind of like kumquats, and they would eat them all and get drunk. And it was fun to watch.
Right on. I like that.
Yeah, do you remember?
Yes, I do remember. And I remember watching, all the animals, and I remember drinking marula juice. But anyway, that's a whole other deal. Okay.
I wasn't going to go there.
I know. Okay. So when we talk about food, I want to know, what is something that you tasted that you've never tasted before, good or bad? Sometimes you taste something and you are like a guest and you've got to just eat it whether you like it or not. So let's talk about either. It's just going to be something that made your eyebrows go to the top of your head. So let's start with you, Lisa, because you're the cuisine queen here. What is the one thing that you've just that is unheard of?
That's it. And it's so hard to get in Los Angeles, which is driving me crazy. It has to be mangosteen. In Thailand, they call mangosteen the queen of all fruit. Durian is the king. I'm not sure why it's stinky, but mangosteen, you open up this red, thick, leathery covering, and you pull off these sweet, white, tropical flavored, almost custardy, incredible segments, and you just savor them. Be careful, it has a very large pit in each one. And I have just never, the fruit selection in Thailand and in Southeast Asia is stunning, obviously because of the tropical weather, and I cannot get enough mangosteen, and anytime I see it, I usually go through almost a kilo by myself.
Wow, there you go. She likes it. Okay, so Lara, what about you? What is the one thing that you've tasted that you just like that was unique?
Well, I love octopus, and I don't order it in the U.S. because I haven't had very good octopus here. But when I was in Greece in the summer, we stopped at one restaurant, and the octopus was just amazing. It was, grilled perfectly, and they had mashed it so it was tender. So that's one of the things I always like to eat when I travel over to Europe and the Mediterranean countries that know how to cook it well.
Right on. I didn't know that. I mean, I don't eat fish. We're allergic to it, both Nancy and I. But I always look at that. I go like, dude, no way, it's not happening for me. The octopus thing, I'll do the mangosteen, but the octopusy thing hanging up there with all their tentacles, like, good for you. I'm glad you're doing that. I just keep hearing Ringo Starr, in my head, but good for you. I'm glad you found it. Glynn, your food outside of England.
So you mean while I've been on holiday?
Yes.
Right. The best meal I've had, I think, has to be the meal I had on the top of the CN Tower when we arrived in Canada, and it was a piece of steak on top of mashed potato, and the steak was just to die for. It really was delicious. It was melt in your mouth. It was a little bit, I think it was a bit like the Wagyu steak from Japan, where it's just so tender that you don't really have to worry about using a knife. It was absolutely amazing. And funnily enough, talking about Canada, my cousin Sandy is actually listening in, and she's just sent me an email. She just sent me a comment on Facebook to say that she's listening in. So just as well I didn't say anything rude about Canada, isn't it, really?
That's right. That's what, the 8 keys of excellence. The third one, speak with good purpose. You're going to learn that. I'm still working on it. I know. So, I really, and honest and kind, and I want to thank you all for joining us for our World Travel panel discussion. Glynn, I know you're going to be back on with us in a couple minutes here to talk about the inside workings of being a tour operator and being, just in a small business doing it too. And so we're excited about that. So everyone, again, norfolk-tours.co.uk. And also, so my last question to you all is about where's your next destination. So, Glynn, we know you're going to Nova Scotia. Is that the very next thing, or do you have anything in between we should know about?
Apart from taking people around, I don't think I'm going anywhere else before then.
Okay. But you will hop the border to, like, Scotland and Wales and,
Yeah, well, I'm driving all over the place, so I go to lots of lovely places, but it's for pleasure as well as business, but this one will be with me and Diane to Canada, so that'll be the next one.
We can't wait. We can't wait to watch you on Facebook and everything and watch what you're doing, because I like to follow everyone's journeys. It's exciting, and I like watching Lara on there. And Instagram, you post so much of Washington State. I'm like, we need to do that. We need to put that on our list this year to go there. So where's your next destination?
So I'm mostly going to be sticking around Washington. I'm going to be doing some stuff in Snohomish. I'm going to go back to the Lewis and Clark Valley. I was there in November doing a wine tour, and they have some great wines out there. And the Tri-Cities, I'm going to go back there in the spring as well. And then I have plans to go back up into some of the small towns around the Vancouver area as well.
Awesome. Everyone, smalltownwashington.com. Keep up with Lara on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I'm telling you, follow her because she gets all these natural places, hiking with her dog, and sometimes you'll get food, and then you're like, dude, why are you doing this to me? I need to get out there. So thank you for the inspiration to get out there. I really appreciate it. And then also Lisa Deutsch, everyone, is essentialwanderings.com. Where's your next destination?
My next destination is Azerbaijan. They gained their independence from Russia in the 90s, and they are a Muslim nation that completely embraces every religion. They practice celebrating diversity. Their women had the vote a year before we did here in the U.S. They are such a progressive nation, and nobody knows about it. So I'm going to go find out and celebrate and explore Azerbaijan and share that with all my readers.
Right on. Very excited. Everybody, you can keep up with Lisa on Twitter at LA Gourmet. And on Facebook, what's the best place for people to keep up with you?
My name, Lisa Deutsch.
There you go. There you go. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to close with some music, but again, I want to give a shout-out to the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Again, their conference is May 6th through 8th, 2018 in Whidbey Island, right outside Lara's doorstep. So you're in good hands over there. So if you just watch out there. It's so beautiful. So that's a great conference to go to learn about the area and also get some travel insider tips. So we're going to close with a little music because, that's the thing that we do here. Especially when we do our world parties. So, we were talking about these English connections, right? So this song is from Kwame Benet and the Shakedown, and they're based out of Harlem. We love our Kwame Benet, and the Shakedown. They were on our cover about 2 years ago in the magazine, and his family roots are in Ghana. And he lived some of his life in West London, and now he's in Harlem, and they're rocking the world everywhere. They toured Europe last year, and they're getting ready to do it again. So this is, again, off of their new album. The new album is called Roots, Rock, and Universal Love. You can see our interview with him on blendradioandtv.com, but go to their website, Kwame Benet, shakedown.com. Here it is, a song called World on Fire. It's about unity. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.